Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. It is a pleasure to have back for a return visit my brother from another mother, Kris Munsch, who hails all the way from Hays, Kansas, which is about 4 hours from Kansas City?
Yeah, we're right in between Kansas City and Denver. We're the place where everybody stops when they're traveling between those two cities to poop.
That's good to know, because what I understand, there isn't many places to poop when you get on the road to Kansas, unless you go off somewhere in a field and decide you're going to do it there and not be self-conscious about it. So
I've talked to a lot of people across the entire country, and they're like, yeah, he's Kansas. You know what? I think we stopped there to go to the bathroom once. So I'm like, yeah, you probably did, because that's what everybody does. We've got the best facilities in Kansas.
It's hard to believe that Kris and I have ever had a serious conversation.
Yeah.
We're about to embark on a pretty serious conversation, and one that both of us never thought we'd even be addressing.
Nope.
Just to give you some background, I've known Kris since 2010. How we met is a story for another podcast. But we have taken two very distinct paths towards our grief journey, but we share the same values. And because we share the same values, we can understand and respect how each other grieve. Kris does not have a formal bio. If you know Kris, there's nothing formal about Kris. I classify him, for lack of a better word, he's a visionary. He's an entrepreneur. He's a repurposer of old things, and he applies that same philosophy to his life. As great as a teacher as he is, he's an even better learner. And with the mantra of this podcast being, we're all students and teachers, let's learn from each other, Kris fits right in with the vibe that I've been trying to create. And Kris, our episode last year titled "Who Am I Really?" made the top 5. And I'm sure it's because of my influence than anything you contributed. But
I think it dropped the F-bomb a few times. That's why I think.
I think that's probably it. I think people were just curious for more, and it was like, well, it was the morbid fascination,
They see that explicit label, they're like, oh, this guy's got to be a piece of work.
Kris is one of the most honest, genuine, just great individuals you'll ever run into. We had talked about doing another podcast. This was a couple of days ago. I had posted something on Facebook about our 5 most viewed teaching journey podcasts in the past year, and you responded and said, we got to do another podcast. And I said, yes. And then on January 5th, everything took a really sudden turn, and we're going to explore a topic that who would have thunk we would have even been doing this time around. But we're going to be talking about our pets who have transitioned to Rainbow Bridge. I use transition to express how I conceive death. Kris may use something different. He may use die. He may use pass away, but it doesn't matter. It's important that we understand everybody's vocabulary in terms of how they conceptualize death and work with that. And we're here basically because of what happened on January 5th. Am I correct?
Yes.
As far as the date. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kris. And why did you just give us an understanding of what happened?
I just, it goes back to Blake dying 18 years ago. So the 23rd of December would have been 18 years that Blake, my son, died. And somewhere along those 18 years, I went from, all those different sayings of what you're saying, how you transitioned, all that, Blake is dead. I try to be as blunt, honest as I can with it. And Blake is dead. I until I really looked at it from that perspective, did I really I think, start to really grasp and understand that. And you posted a couple years ago, I think it was Zoe, your cat. I think you posted about your cat dying, and I've had many people have posted on social media about losing a pet, and I, for one, was just like, and I think I was the same way with Blake when he was still, when prior to Blake dying, you would see and read about, people losing their kids, and, you think to yourself, that's not good. But the reality is you can just take another breath and move on. And prior to the fifth, my dog Moose, he's a golden retriever, and, he's just a super smart dog. You could have conversations with that dang dog, and I think he'd understand, and so when you posted about Zoe, I felt bad for you, but I didn't get it. And Moose was going on, he was about 12 and a half years old, and he was struggling. I've noticed the past couple of months, especially, he's starting to lose his eyesight, and just, he's having, he went everywhere with me. Was having a harder time getting in and out of my truck. He used to just jump right in, get up on the seat, and like I noticed this morning, it's so fucking real, dude. It's like his nose prints are all over my window, and he was doing decent. And he was on the porch Thursday night. I went out to let him in because he always laid out. He was always a dog that always kind of did his own thing, but he was just a buddy. When you walked by him, he was always wagging his tail. He was a friend to everybody. And he got up off the porch, came in like he always did, took about 5 or 6 steps in the house, and he just froze. And I just kind of stood there looking at him, and I'm like, come on, Moose. And he needed to go through the living room and the dining room to get to the kitchen because we blocked him out of those areas. We got a little baby gate. We have 3 dogs. Moose, Blizzy is a puppy, golden Great Pyrenees, and then Gunner, he's a pit bull. And Moose just struggled to get into the kitchen. He was real wobbly. He got into the hallway where he normally comes in and lays down, and he just couldn't stand up. He kind of fell over, and something happened, like something triggered in him. I don't know if it was a stroke. It was eerily similar to me when I had my stroke, and that's why I think he had a stroke. I was just walking along. Next thing you know, boom, I had a stroke in my cerebellum. Had a hard time standing up, and it just seemed like, he became non-functional for a while. And we took him to the vet that night. Called the emergency number. We just talked about, let's give him a pain shot. Just try to get him through the night and see how he feels tomorrow. The next morning, I walked into. We brought him in, laid him down in the utility room on a blanket, and he hadn't moved all night. And normally that's not how Moose operated. It goes back to, oddly enough, his soul. I think his soul knew something was coming because he was always a dog from being a puppy that never wanted to sleep anywhere in the location of anybody else. He always wanted to do his thing. But about the last 6 weeks, month, he would lay curled up right by the foot of right by the next to the bed, next to me. So I just thought that was odd, right? Something's up. And little did I know that Friday morning I'd have to get up and go help Moose die, I guess is the best way to put it. We got him there. We had to carry him in, made a blanket spot for him. We set him down, and he, oddly enough, rebounded. He sat up. He always sat with his paws crossed like a true gentleman. Head up, wanted some love. I was giving him a lot of love, obviously. And the vet came in. We talked about it and said, probably best. Something's going on, but now I'm questioning this, right? Because what the fuck are you doing, Moose? Now you're rebounding. Let me question this, because going into it, I felt good about it, but there was one thing that made me follow through with it, was that he loved when I would get in there and dig and rub in his ears really hard. And when I would do that, he would just grunt and moan and he just loved it. He didn't make a peep, right? I mean, you could tell he was enjoying it, but I was just getting something happened. And so I knew that I didn't know, and I didn't know that I really wanted to know this one, but we helped Moose take his last breath, and we were there the whole time. And God damn, dude, he like, I see him, the reason why I said, let's do a podcast on this and let's do it now is because it is, I'm telling you, this is fresher than pie coming out of an oven. I see him everywhere. I was getting ready to leave home to come out here to the office to do this. And I mean, he was always right there, right by the door. He didn't necessarily always come with me, but he was right there to the door. He always ran over when I let our pigs out to go potty. We have 3 little pigs, and he was always standing there waiting for a treat. I looked up when I would let the pigs out, and there's his jug. And, when I gave him his last treat, little did I know. I mean, it is so parallel Blake's death. If I ever believe that loss is loss, and when I say loss is loss, it can be you lose a billfold that was dear to you. You go through divorce or illness, or the parallel is unmistakable, right? I mean, the idea that you're for 12 and a half years, you've got this companion, and all of a sudden it's different, right? And I'm still getting grip on it, and I will be. I will be forever, right? I had his collar was his clothes. He knew that collar as his clothes, and I hung in there pretty good while we were at the vet's office, and my wife Larissa said, "Well, we better take his clothes off for the final time," and that, who. Dave, who knew a fucking dog could do this to you? A dog.
Yeah, we're a society that will avoid talking about death as much as possible, but yet we are willing to revisit the pain of pet loss. We will buy a pet knowing that in all likelihood we're going to outlive them, and that we are going to experience the severe emotional pain and shock that parallels any other type of loss that we have.
Yeah.
And I think we do that because our pets give us something that many humans can't give us, and that's unconditional love. And our pets can teach us more about humanity than many humans can. And we thirst for that. We could be having a bad day. We could have said something that was really just stupid or in the category of dumbass, and they don't care. They're just going to be basically, Moose would come, wag his tail, sat on your lap, licked your face, and it makes it all good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you got it after you saw me posting about Zoe. You get the pain of pet loss, and you've made a parallel to child loss. And when you read about child loss, it was like, well, thankfully, I feel bad, but it wasn't me. At least thankfully it wasn't me. That's how I felt until Janine transitioned. And then I realized, oh, it is me. I've transitioned, Kris, probably 6 or 7 pets in my day, including a beloved golden retriever that we had when Janine was around. Her name was Ginger. She had eerily very similar symptoms to Moose. I think she had a stroke. She had some neurological difficulties, and there was an undefined mass in her stomach, which meant that she probably had cancer that had metastasized. So we all took turns, the kids, me, Sherry, we all took turns saying goodbye to her. And I was there with her when she took her last breath, and it was emotional. For me, I've always been a cat guy. I've been a cat guy the last 26 years. And 2 cats in particular, one was Bootsy and the other was Zoe. And if you guys will indulge a little bit, I'll just give you some background on both. Bootsy was a Christmas gift from my Janine's best friend. Bootsy lived for about 21 years. He outlived Janine. Janine had transitioned in 2003. And after that, Bootsy became my cat. He was Janine's cat. He would sleep with me at night. He would wake me up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning to get me going. I'd say, Bootsy, give me a break. It's only 4:30. He'd meow, 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 as if to say, get your ass moving. And he got me moving in the morning. He allowed me to take care of him. He loved me, Kris, when I couldn't love myself.
Mhm.
When he transitioned, it was basically due to old age. We took him to the vets, and he went peacefully in his 21st year. And there was a lot of serendipity. There were a lot of signs that occurred before and after his death that allowed me to find many moments of peace amidst the sadness. It involved crows. It involved at the end of his life where he was like Moose had that little surge at the end. Bootsy had that surge where he was kind of looking up at the sky and he was kind of struggling, I thought, to stay alive. But I honestly think he saw Janine waiting for him and
Mhm.
he was ready to go. And all of those moments softened the blow. But like you, I kept looking for him. I kept waiting for him to jump on my lap, a bunch of different things. And that didn't go away for quite a while. The other piece is that one of the things that I anticipated is that when Bootsy transitioned, when it was his time to go, it was also going to resurface feelings of very intense grief with Janine because of the connection of Bootsy and Janine. And it did. I found myself yearning for Janine, but you know what surprised me? I grieved primarily because of the significance that Bootsy had in my life after she transitioned. And that's what that loss I grieved more intensely. And then there's Zoe. Um, this is her bell that she used to ring at her scratching post. So I'm wearing that in honor of her. She was a rescue cat that we inherited from my son Dan when he started working in academia. He was living in residence housing, staff housing, and they couldn't have pets. So we inherited Zoe and her partner cat Nitsky. And Zoe was a cat that would just do really stupid shit. She would stick her head halfway down this laundry chute. She would roll on her stomach, want me to rub her belly. She would jump in my suitcase. She would do a whole bunch of different things. One of the things that had died when Janine had transitioned was my ability to just really laugh for the sake of laughing. And Zoe just brought out that playfulness in me. And interestingly, and I noticed that 6 months before Bootsy transitioned, he was relinquishing his role to Zoe's. I became Zoe's human. I was Bootsy's human, and Bootsy said, Zoe, you need to take care of him because I can't anymore. As I look back on it, I was pretty awestruck. Zoe was 15 when she transitioned. She developed allergies, which she had to take steroids for. And what steroids, Kris? You know, there's probably other side effects. She ended up developing spinal cancer, which our vets said I was only the second cat that she had ever worked on that had spinal cancer. It was in a place where they couldn't do chemo. We were going to do chemo with a 15-year-old cat anyway. We didn't want to put her through that. The vet came to our house, and Zoe sat in my lap on July 2nd, 2022, and looking out the window, it was a beautiful sunny day. She transitioned right in my lap. And I still think about her. I still think about Bootsy. Bootsy transitioned in 2016, and I still think of both of them. My cats taught me a lot of things about myself, each different teachings that I might not have learned otherwise. They loved me unconditionally when I couldn't love myself. They brought out the playfulness in me. I think about Bootsy and Zoe as much as I think about my daughter. And I'm not saying I don't think about my other pets that I've transitioned. They do come to mind, but those two, for the significance that they had before and after Janine's transition, they will always have a place in my memories, in my heart, for what they taught me.
It's interesting because I'd never been a part of that before. I'm a little rough around the edges. So, all my
I,
pets,
I would have never figured that out, Kris.
all my pets prior to either got ran over and killed or I lost them in divorce. So, I tried to divorce Larissa, at the vet Friday morning. But she's like, no, you're not leaving me hanging here with this shit. So
Yeah.
she, but, but the parallels, dude, we were leaving the vet's office to go home, which is a quarter mile. I mean, already the regrets, I mean, I got mad at Moose when he was eating horse poop. And I mean, fuck, if he likes horse poop, eat horse poop. I mean, I look, starting to regret that stuff. And it was the same with Blake. The window prints on the nose in my truck right now. It's like I need to wash those off, but I really want to keep those. And it's like looking back at Blake when I knew my tube of toothpaste would run out and I'd have to move on to a new tube. It is eerily similar, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast so soon is because it is just so fresh, and I know it'll ease and it all comes because of losing Blake, but there's this choice in there, right? Because I literally had somebody say to me, "That's why I don't have pets." I'm like, so is that the reason why you wouldn't want to get married? Is that the reason why you wouldn't want to have friends? I mean, anytime you connect to something, there is the reality that you're going to have to there's a very big possibility you're going to have to let go of it, right? I mean, and I noticed last night, Larissa, her pit bull Gunner, he's mellowed out. I think he's 10. But last night we sat down to watch a movie, and she went and found him and drug him over there and made him get on the couch with her, and he laid on his back in her lap and she covered him up. I mean, like a baby. And we don't have kids, so that, I mean, we have kids. We have a bunch of kids. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I told her, so we got back from the vet. Before I pulled in the garage, I just wrote down and told her I regretted the Mother's Day when she kind of made a comment to me that I didn't get her anything for Mother's Day. And I said, well, you're not really a mom. And I mean, from the moment that came out of my mouth, I knew that she is probably, well, not probably, she is a mom to more animals that we have. And that is kids can tell you how they feel. Animals can't. So you have to become this psychiatric. You got to get in their mind to see how they feel and how they're acting. And so I just told her immediately, I'm not going to die with this regret and not tell you. And I had already told her I was sorry for saying that. I just never, dude, I never dreamed losing a pet could be, so traumatic, and it flushed up memories of Blake for me. Blake never knew Moose, but obviously just the whole death thing, it just brings you back square one, and so it kind of flushes up some of those things, and just the reality that, the whole thing was, like 4 months ago, we got it there. We got Blizzy, the Great Pyrenees puppy, and she's the biggest pain in the ass, dude. I mean, I'm telling you, you leave anything on the counter, that dog gets in the backyard. I mean, anything. She's big. She's a big girl, and she gets up on the counter and takes everything. And, while Moose is laying on the floor, going through this deal, Blizzy is jumping on me because I'm down on the floor and she wants to play, and Gunner comes over. Gunner's old enough to, I think, to know. And so he came over and kind of sat down by us. And I think he could sense that something was wrong. But we all know. And, to make a long story short, we've got a mouse in the house, and we live on the edge of town. And, of course, if you come to our house and I just think this is a common thing. And, I think if you go into a lot of married couples' bedrooms and you look at their nightstands, my nightstand is pristine and hers has got bowls, and it's just like this heaping helping of life, right? So about 5 or 6 days ago, she's, taps on me, "Hey, we got a mouse." And I'm like, "What? How do you know that?" She goes, "I saw it in one of my bowls eating cream of wheat." And I'm like, "What?" I'm immediately thinking extermination, and she's thinking, "I think I'm going to get it a sweater vest and I want to take it to work with me." And I'm like, "Oh God," and it's just, that is her persona. I mean, she raised Doug this summer from no feathers to riding on her shoulder, but it would fly around and come back to her, and she'd take it to work with her. I mean, if a chicken dies, she cries. I didn't get it, I think, before. Now, just the connection she can make with animals. Thursday morning, I had found a couple sticky traps. I was like, I'm going to catch this damn mouse. Like, we don't want a mouse in our house. So I put peanut butter on both of those sticky traps, and I set them on the counter, and then I went to work. And when she texts me good morning, I was going to respond to her, hey, when you leave, put those sticky traps on our nightstands, put one on mine and one on yours, and let's catch that damn mouse. Well, I forgot about it. And so before I brought Moose in and he got sick, I came in the house. I'm like, oh, did you put the sticky traps? And she's like, no. What sticky traps? I'm like, oh, shit. So I go look in the backyard, no sticky traps. I'm like, where the hell did sticky traps go? And true to fashion, in the moment, there was this, something happening with Blake. There was this moment of, I don't know that I'm a believer in God or all these different things, but there was this moment of humor, because as Blizzy was jumping on me and I was getting mad at her, like, damn it, get off me. And I pushed her away. And when I pushed her away, right on her ass were both of those sticky traps stuck on her butt in the fur. And so well, there's the sticky traps. She had gotten those, and one of them still stuck to her butt right now, because we just haven't had time to cut the dang thing off of her. But, and I remember when Blake died, should I laugh? Right. How am I supposed to act? My son just died. And so the parallels are just, dang, dude, they're so similar. It's almost mind boggling to think that it can be so similar that, I'm not going to say it's harder, but it's hard, because you just see and feel all these similar things. Like, I shouldn't laugh, Friday night, it was very similar. I remember thinking back after Blake died, all these people were bringing food to the house. And I was kind of like, fuck it, I'm just going to eat, and, Larissa had been sewing here. So she wrote with me that afternoon, and she's like, what are we going to do for dinner? And I'm like, you know what? I don't give a shit. Let's get a pizza. So I was like, no, but you know what? Let's each get our own fucking pizza. And so we each get our pizzas, and then we go to the store, we get Linder chocolate, the best chocolate.
Yep.
And I carrying in a big cherry pie. She's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to grieve through eating, because, I deserve it. And so similar to losing Blake. Just, it's crazy, Dave. It's crazy that it can be so similar.
And I tell my students this at Utica University. Every loss, the reactions and the effects that it has on us physically, emotionally, psychologically, are all pretty much going to be the same. And just because I've found peace, and I've accepted that my world is different because of my daughter's absence from this world, doesn't mean that when I experience another loss, I'm going to be able to use that and apply it like a credit check. And
Right.
we have to go through the process. And
Yeah.
every loss has a unique significance as far as the relationship that we had. The relationship that you had with Moose might have been different, similar, but yet different in many ways than the relationship you had with Blake. And the same with me, with my pets. And we all grieve that very intensely, and we need to. It's every pain we experience with grief is meant to be felt. We have to wallow in it before we can wallow through it. And the thing with pets is that, again, is what they represent to us. You and Larissa are parents. You're parents to a variety of different four-legged, beautiful creatures who, quite frankly, Kris, probably inherited this earth before we did.
Yeah.
And they have every right to being treated with respect and with love than anybody, which is why for me, anybody that abuses an animal, I just, I can't get down with that. I can't even, I
Yeah.
can't even fathom that. I mean, how can you abuse something and a creature that is probably closer to God than anything you're going to get, um, who gives us that unconditional love, that companionship, who loves us when we can't love ourselves. Where
Yeah.
are we going to get that from?
Yeah.
Where are we going to, and we grieve those associated losses with our pets as much as we grieve associated losses with our children, with our spouses, with our siblings, with our grandparents. It's the same process.
Every animal I have, I've got mini donkey, mini pony. I got a blind mini pony. I have a mini pony. I have a pony. I have Carlos the cow that we raised 2 days after he was born. He laid on the couch with us by the fireplace. We have ducks, chickens. We have cats. We have, I'm probably leaving something. A dog. But I'm going to tell you, it is crazy. Even like ducks have personalities. Like we have this female duck that she just, I mean, she just doesn't shut up. And then I've got these 4 male ducks that are just like, they're just pigs for the food. But the way they act, they always, you watch them walk in a row. It's almost always in the same order. And, they don't complicate things. Moose never complicated things. He was always happy. He was always wagging his tail. He loved everybody. I mean, last week I pulled up to the donut shop, and I mean, finally I started buying him his own donut because, last week and the week before I pulled up, I'm like, you know what? Fucking, I'm taking him in. I mean, I know dogs aren't supposed to be in a restaurant, but I don't give a shit. I'm taking him in. So he went in there, and I'm telling you, he went from table to table, and everybody loved seeing him. And even a guy sitting over there with his head down good, he didn't want to be talked to, but he reached over and was petting Moose's head. He even reached that guy. And when I went in Friday morning to tell, I went in to grab a donut and told Linda there that, she was just in shock that this was happening to Moose because he kind of became everybody's dog. And people drive by to see our animals that we have. I always tell my help that the best time my business runs is when nobody's here, because we as humans come in and complicate it, right? I mean, we bring in all our baggage and all our past and we like this, we don't like that. But yet you can let 3 dogs in this building and they could give a shit. They just, where's the water? And where's my fair meal? And can I have a snack off that table? I mean, they just like pets are just different, right? And when I say we complicate things, I mean, I include me because I got my baggage in my life and all the things that I bring into it. Larissa and I, that's the one thing, Friday after we got back to the house and I apologized to her, she looked at me and she said, well, you're surely not going to work, are you? And I'm like, that's what I do, right? That's how I grieve. I've always grieved and she's the kind of person that she just wanted to go sit in bed for a while. And, she just was just, that's the way she wanted to grieve. And prior to even you and I meeting, we're so different. We've got such different paths, but the respect we have for each other, that's what I told her. So you can go sit and you go do what you want to do for a while and let's reconvene a little later. But right now I just need to go and do something with this.
We're hot wired differently than the women in our lives that deal with grief. We feel just as intensely, Kris, but we just deal with it. You get busy when you start experiencing feelings. Me, I've learned to find a balance between expressing how I feel and being comfortable with that. But also for me, for the most part, I'm very much in my head. I mean, I'm a doer. I like to do stuff. And, and I tell anybody, if you want to see how a guy's feeling, ask them what they're thinking first. I'll tell you, and it may not be pretty, But then if you say, yeah, boy, this really sucks. How
Yeah.
does it make you feel? Well, I'm angry. I'm pissed off. Um, I'm depressed. Um, I'm sad. I'm lost. Those are feelings.
Yeah.
But, you ask a guy to talk about his feelings right off the bat. You might as well have me build a rocket ship and fly it to Mars. I'll probably have better success. But if you ask me what I'm thinking, I can sure as hell tell you how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And Sherry and I are very similar to you and Larissa. But once we understood that, I understood that with her, and we were able to respect the way we grieve loss. We were able to give each other space, but we were also able to understand that without trying to change each other.
Yeah. Yeah. These experiences help my relationship. I mean, with not just my wife, but with everybody, right? I mean, it's already improved my relationship with you. I'm coming from a perspective where, and it's unfortunate. I think to myself, I'm sorry that I didn't get it before, but I didn't know how to get it. And now I'm in a position where I get it. And, the first thing I need to do is admit to the fact that I didn't get it. And I see those experiences I had that I couldn't connect to them. And I'm a guy that I'm a tangible guy, right? I mean, my hat is my hat, and I just think of those things from a tangible side of, it's about our life experiences coming together. And when your experiences, like you say, are so they're similar, they're not the same. It's that whole deal we've talked about when people say, I've been in your shoes, and no, you haven't, because you've been in your shoes and maybe experienced something similar, but they're just not the same shoes. And I look at the way things happen in my life from my perspective, and you look at them from your perspective. But the whole damn goal is to put our perspectives on the table and respect them
And understand them.
and understand. Yeah, be willing to step out of my perspective and say, you know what, I don't get that and understand that, but damn, I'm willing to learn from you. And because the reality is there's a pretty damn good chance that I'm going to run into that. Right. And I can reach back on that and kind of have it help guide me through what I'm going through. And, it's unfortunate. It's taken me to be 60 years old to figure a lot of this stuff out. And I think that's what's made me a better teacher when I taught at the university was, construction's important, but that's really not the real topic here, right? I mean, the real topic I was trying to teach was some good life lessons so they could go out and utilize those life lessons. Our goal in a university setting is to give them a snippet of our lives and our experience. They're really going to get their life experiences when they go out and do it. I mean, we can teach how to build and counsel and all those things, but the reality is when they're sitting there and they're actually experiencing it and they're in the position they have to do it, that's when they're really going to learn. But to give them the tools to do that and just to have an understanding that they need to be that open with it, right? I mean, we are, you and I are two different animals, and but at the same time, we're very similar creatures, and we just have that mutual respect for each other that we can do those things. I mean, I've watched all the podcasts that you've done and listened to all those podcasts, and when I listen, I'm like, damn, I wish I had the ability and patience Dave has to do this, because I would love to do it. But the reality is it's just not in my wheelhouse, right? My wheelhouse is building and creating physical items. And I got to be okay with that, right? Because drive a wedge and make me be pissed off at you. Well, fuck Dave. He has the time to do this. It's something I want to do, but why would I be mad at you? I need to be proud of you for who you are and what you're doing. And it just goes back to what animals can teach us is, I mean, that's unconditional love that share with you and love you for what you're doing and how you're acting and how you're living your life. And And that's what I think we share.
Well, and whenever I see you and Larissa repurpose an old home and turn it from really kind of like, if you look at a Beauty and the Beast type of thing, turn it from a beast into just this just beautiful piece of work. I'm happy for you. I'm not going to get jealous over that because that's something I can't do.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you and Larissa are getting recognition for, it's like, these are people I love dearly. I said,
Yeah.
why would I not be happy for them, for their success? Why would I be jealous of that?
Yeah.
It would be like me being jealous and angry because I go into a supermarket and I see somebody with their pets. I see somebody with their intact family in place and say, damn, I wish what happened to them could happen to me. Can you imagine how that would sound coming out of my mouth? You know, it's like, I would be happy because I wouldn't want anybody to have gone through what I went through with Janine or to go through with my pets, particularly with Bootsy and Zoe, which, by the way, if I didn't mention this earlier, I did. I think this is Zoe's bell that I'm wearing around my neck. I have her cremains right on a shelf in my desk, along with the rest of my ancestors who have passed. And we have Bootsy buried in the backyard because that was his home for 21 years. So they're still a part of us, although in different form, but they'll always be a part of our family.
You know, it's funny because you mentioned the cremains. I didn't even know, you know, the morning I went, Friday morning before I took Moose to the vet for his final time, you know, I was looking for a shovel because I thought that I thought that I was going to have to go find a spot to bury him, you know, and it was freaking snowing outside. And then we got there and I'm like, what? And then they told me, well, we can have him cremated. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. But I really didn't want to do it because I knew, you know, I mean, being a visual person, I'm knowing what Moose is going to go through and I don't want anything to happen to him. But the reality was that's what was best. And they're going to give me his remains. And I thought, now what am I going to do with those? Because I'm not a visual person and I don't want to stick his remains in a drawer in the basement. But it was easy for me yesterday. I realized that, you know, Moose had a kind of a favorite spot to lay. That's normally where I found him. And it's the oddest spot. It's not like under a tree and it's romantic. It's like this odd spot in the grass right by the road. Kind of by the barn, but it's just a regular spot. And I'm like, that's where I'm going to put him, right? I'm going to dig up some grass, put him down in there, put the grass on the top and let it grow over. I've got one picture hanging up in my house at Blake, and that's actually because of my wife. You know, she just said, let's put one picture up. She likes that. If her sister passed away, she wants some visuals. She's got some, and that's what she likes, but I don't. And I said, you know what, for you, you know, not necessarily for me, but for you, if you want to put that picture up, you can put it up. And, you know, Blake's collar, his clothes, what am I going to do with that? You know, how do I do that? Do I stick it in a drawer? And it was pretty simple. Saturday morning, I got up and I'm like, you know, Blizzy has some pretty big shoes to fill. I'm going to put this on Blizzy. And so I took Moose's collar, put it on Blizzy, and true to form, I come back 2 hours later. She's got it hooked in her mouth and around because I'd made a suit. So just like sticky traps on her ass, got the collar on her mouth. I'm like, oh my God. Are you just a fucking mess because you're trying to distract me from all of this? Or, you know, so I took it all off and then I realized, oh, this Great Pyrenees looks so big, but really and truthfully, she's like 6 pounds, but she's got 486 pounds of hair. And so when I get in there and I'm like, holy shit, her neck is only this big. I'm over there with a paring knife trying to dig a hole in that, you know? So now I got a hole in my finger because I slipped off and stuck it in my finger. And God, welcome to my shit show. And it's so perfect, right? I mean, I love my shit show. I love being a freaking mess.
Well, let me tell you something. I think a lot of people would align with your definition of being a mess and take that anytime. And like you know, you said you're 60 years old and you're still learning some stuff. I'm 68, Kris, and my past will still come up and I still need to deal with some stuff. And I'm going as long as I'm my heart's beating and I'm able to sit down and stand up and take nourishment, I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to continue to repurpose myself and that's the beauty part of always being in a constant state of learning, as well as valuing being teaching as well too, because we can teach through our own experiences, and that's what you and I both bring to the classroom, and that's what these kids will take away from them. I don't remember 90% of the stuff I'd learned in undergrad or graduate school, but do I remember those specific life lessons and examples? Those I'll take with me, and that's what I want my students to take with me. That's what I know you want your students and anybody else that comes in contact with you to take with you, and that's why we have the mutual respect and love that we have for each other, because we both value that. We both value experiences over theory.
Yeah. Dave, all I can hope for you or for me, from my perspective, is if this were to be our last conversation, if I walk away from here and I fall down face forward carrying 2x4s and I'm dead, and you hear that news, all I want to pass on is that you say to yourself, that dude was doing exactly what the fuck he wanted. Like, he gave zero shits. He just did his thing. And
Right.
And I want the same for you. And I want the same for Moose. Like, that's what you want I think that's the ultimate goal, right? That's legacy, because it doesn't matter jack shit what I own, what I drive, what's kind of pants I have on. I got mismatched socks on right now. Probably wearing the same damn dirty underwear I had on 3 days ago because I couldn't find clean ones. It doesn't matter, right? Anything beyond my skin doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And it's these life lessons and I think that's, God, it's just not much more important. It's just important, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, it's 20 years ago, would I have embraced that kind of value system? Probably not.
Nope.
Not to the extent that I do now, but because of what's happened to me in my life with my daughter Janine's transition and all the repurposing that I had to do with my assumptive world because of that, I see things much more differently, including how I teach, how I nurture relationships, everything.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I wish we would have never met, right? Because the fact is we met because our kids died.
Well,
Had our kids not died, we would have never met, right? You're on the East Coast. I mean, in case, not unless you stopped in town and pooped and something happened and we would have crossed paths, but it would have never been like this.
no.
I wish I wasn't here, right? I wish I had not experienced Moose's death. I wish I would have not experienced some of the experiences I have. But my question then is that it's all worth it, right? I mean, it's all worth it.
It is, because of what I've learned from the challenges of my pet's deaths, transitions, my daughter's transition. That's what's been worth it. And I've been able to align with people who know tragedy like yourself, who are willing to repurpose their lives after tragedy, who see the world very uniquely. And I realize that as those are the things that have been blessings because of the challenges of what's happened to me with my own tragedy.
Yeah.
But had I not experienced child loss, had I not experienced pet loss, we would have never met.
Yep.
And my life would be drastically different. It would be more linear, it would be more predictable. But hey, I wasn't meant to come into this lifetime to lead a smooth life, to lead a life without tragedy. You and I have experienced the utmost in tragedies with our children, with you with Blake and me with Janine, and with our pets.
Yep.
And who are going to be very inextricably connected to our children. Blake's death was December 23rd. Moose's January 5th. When Blake dies, you're probably going to automatically go to thinking about Moose and vice versa. And I'm not trying to project that, but that's where you may go.
It will go that way. Yeah. No. It's funny because I told Larissa, we've been I put this thing on, basically fuck Christmas. I don't like Christmas, and my wife really doesn't like Christmas at all because her sister died during the holidays. And since I came out with saying fuck Christmas, I actually had a really good Christmas this year because I didn't have the pressure of everybody trying to make me have a good Christmas. And she said, we really ought to go on a trip for Christmas. Instead of saying, here, let's just go on a trip. She was thinking Florida, let's go to California. Maybe we should go to New York. And, when Blake, after Moose died, I'm like, fuck it, we're going to Paris. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. It's kind of like the apple pie and the pizza, or the cherry pie and the pizza. Like, if we're going to book a trip, like, we better book it now, because I'm telling you right now, if we wait till next Christmas, this is going to wear off, and I'm going to be like, nope, we got to stay here and work, and we got to do this. So let's buy the damn tickets, non-refundable, because I'm too much of a tight ass to let it go. So let's book a trip. Like, if we're really going to do this and we say we're going to enjoy, I can pack in a little bitty bag this way, because obviously I'm wearing old, dirty clothes. So, Dave, I tell you what, it's funny. I told her I was coming, she texted me this morning, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to the office. I'm going to do a podcast with Dave. And she's like, you still talk to him? I'm like, what the fuck? We talk all the time.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Talk, text. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, babe. She's like, we need to go up there to see him sometime. I'm like, we do need to go up. He's got some shitty diners we can go to and eat some hamburgers.
Oh, absolutely. I already got the shitty diner tour planned for you guys. So, I got the list. So you better make it like a 2-week trip, because it's going to take us that long to get through the diners.
We were laughing because when we came up there I don't know, it's been a while now when we came up to that conference. When we were driving home, we literally saw the sign, Niagara Falls. I don't even know, Niagara Falls, 600 feet north, and you could go see it. We're driving to interstate. We were like, oh, fuck it, let's go home. We didn't even have the energy to go there. I kind of regret not going. I'm like, bullshit. We wanted to be home as bad as I wanted to be home. And she's like, yeah, it's actually true. I go, here, I'll go get you a video of Niagara Falls. It's water going over a ledge.
You're just an incurable romantic too, Kris. So, it's just, that's why she loves you.
It's good stuff, buddy.
It is good stuff. So what else you got for me?
I'd rather have had Blake and lost him and had Moose and lost him. And I'm glad we met. I say I regret it, but the reality is if I'm going to go through those experiences and meet somebody, I want to meet people like you. And it just makes it all worth it.
Likewise, it's just, we're brothers in arms.
Yep.
We're brothers in arms, and that's the way it will always be.
Yep.
So I'm still the prettier brother, though, just so you
that's debatable. I mean, the whole time I'm watching this, I'm watching my goggle chin. My wife is right. Maybe I've gained some weight this winter. It's winter weight. I'll work it off next summer.
Yeah, you will. You'll work it off just with all the stuff that you do. So, my friend, as always, it's a pleasure. I am going to keep you and Moose in my heart, in my thoughts.
Yeah.
And somewhere I'm hoping that Zoe and Bootsy have caught up with Moose. Bootsy and Moose were cut out of the same cloth as far as welcoming to everybody. And Zoe and Blizzy seem to have that very playful attitude.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Not only do our lives parallel in a lot of what we value, but also our pets' journeys have kind of aligned too, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
I
love you too, my friend. And with that is a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I am your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.